For folks that are joining us, welcome to the Sessions College Open House. We're just going to wait 5 to 10 minutes as people join. We're going to be just spending 40 or 50 minutes talking about the benefits of the BFA program with a special guest presenter in our department head, Felicia Kaiselhorst, who's going to talk about becoming a professional photographer. And, we'll also be providing information on the BFA program for all majors. So we're excited to talk to you about the BFA. Which we do once a semester in these open house sessions. And, as we go through it, please save any questions or you're to the end of the presentation, or you're welcome through the chat to submit a question as we move forward. But welcome. Okay, we're about to start our Sessions College Open House for our April classes, welcoming students and giving them information on our BFA programs at Sessions, which are still relatively new. They've been introduced in the last 2 years. They're exciting new level of program that we are delighted to talk to students about. We do these open house talks once a term in advance of the next semester start to give our current students and our graduates information on programs. And so we're going to wait a couple of minutes while we're giving additional students a chance to join. And I'm really happy that the folks that we're going to have on this chat are the best people to tell you about the BFA program at Sessions. I myself, I'm Gordon Drummond. I'm president of Sessions College. I was deeply involved in the development of these programs with these far more talented ladies that are on this call with me. We've got our dean, Meryl Epstein, who is a photographer and a designer and lots of other things. And she was deeply involved in the development of the programs. And we've got department head, Felicia Kaiselhorst, who is department head of digital photography and is going to give a special component to this presentation that's all about, the experience of becoming a professional photographer. That's a topic that's important for many students entering our programs. As you take a program, whether it's a degree or certificate program or whatever it is, as you're thinking of applying your skills to the real world, even while you're in your class and in your program and developing your skills, you should be thinking about, what does life look like afterwards? What kind of things do I want to do with my career? How can I apply my creative skills to a job? And so those are some of the topics that Felicia's going to delve into, which apply to photography, but also, also apply to any creative professional in a way that is seeking to make it into the professional world. So welcome to everybody. I've given my introductions. Meryl and Felicia, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'll go first. I'm the Dean of Academic Affairs. I'm glad that everyone is here to join us. We're very excited to share information about our exciting BFA programs. So welcome.
Thank you. And Felicia?
Hi, everybody. I'm Felicia. I go by Flea. I'm the department head, and I teach a slew of the photo classes at Sessions. I'm also a full-time professional photographer in the Bay Area.
Thank you. And also very important part of this presentation is Jessica De La Garza, our head of admissions. Jessica, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Jessica De La Garza. I'm the Senior Director of Admissions, and my role in the school is just to help students through their enrollment process, make it smooth and easy for them, and just sort of match them up with the right program that we have to meet their education objectives.
Great. And we'll have information at the end of this meeting about admissions to these programs. So stick around if you'd like to find out how to get into them. Okay, we'll get started. So we're going to present this meeting in 3 parts. In the first part, Meryl's going to talk about the BFA program, which is a new program with a lot of exciting different features for students. Even if you've been at Sessions before, even if you're currently enrolled in the AOS or the undergraduate certificate level, there are things about the program that are they're new and they're different and geared to our students. So Meryl's going to begin that presentation, and then we'll hand it on to Felicia in the middle to talk about photography, and I'll wrap it up at the end before we talk to admissions. So lots of fun in store. Meryl, over to you.
Sure. Okay, what's unique about Sessions? Well, this program was developed with our students in mind. Our students in AOS, which is the associate degree program, which we have in digital photography, and our other BFA programs have AOS companion programs. We built these 4 additional semesters onto our AOS program, which is a 72 credit program. And then you get these 4 semesters and then you get a BFA, which is incredible. So it's not like some programs, you know, they build from scratch, or you get all these gen eds up front. In our case, we built it on what our students already know and what their future goals could be. We wanted to make sure that I call it the professional finishing school. So what other pieces of information, tools in your toolkit do you need to have to be successful in the field? And always focused on enhancing your portfolio, which you would show to future clients and employers. The next slide. And there's Flea, different hairstyle. The program outcomes, all our degree programs. And again, I'm not going to read this to you, lots of words. You can see it on the website. Always look at program outcomes. We have program outcomes for all our degree programs, but in this case, it really gives you a sense of what we're going to focus on. Obviously, photography, lighting, art, and design principles, because when you take an image, you really have to have a sense of how to compose that piece and what makes the difference between a mediocre image and a fabulous image. It's very often it's about design and composition, and I call punctuation that little something extra. Technology and image enhancement, of course, research, history, and criticism. That's really important, because as a working professional, and also someone gets a bachelor's degree, they expect you to be able to talk about your topic, present your work in a very professional way. And we really focus on that. Portfolio, of course, critical thinking, communication and writing, and then professional practices and readiness. All of this adds up to one fabulous enchilada that has all the pieces that you need to be successful. And again, of course, a positive attitude and wanting a willingness to be a lifelong learner. So as you see on the bottom of the slide, its BFA program can be completed in 10 semesters. So that's from beginning to end. If you're an AOS student, you've completed the AOS student, program, perhaps you're a graduate, all you have to take are 4 more semesters. So basically, if you add up from beginning to end, you get a BFA in 3 years and a semester, which I think is fabulous. Next. Okay, so how do we make this happen? So again, if you were to look at our website, you can see, let's say you went to the BFA in photography. And again, we have a BFA in illustration and also in graphic design, just in case someone is listening in another program area. So we have year 1 and then year 2. So those are both, there's 3 semesters per year. And again, as I mentioned, it adds up to 72 credits. And then we have 4 more semesters, which are semester 7 through 10. And again, sometimes life happens, people are part-time. So this is this is the perfect scenario, but we know life happens. So people have customized paths. So maybe you're not working, you're working full-time and you're not in school full-time. That's fine too, because we're very flexible in that regard. But if you were to look at the program, you can see those last 48 credits. We have semester 7, which really builds on what you did previously. We look at your portfolio, we enhance your understanding of photography by looking at photography genres and late 20th century photography, which makes you, wow, I hadn't thought about that way, or shooting that way, or creating more fine art pieces in your portfolio. Cultural anthropology is a gen ed. By the way, if you're new to sessions, our gen eds, we create them all ourselves. They're not off the shelf. So we're really into them, and we create things that are very applicable to students, like communication. Of course, you need to present. Accounting for creatives. Sounds interesting, right? Yeah, how are you going to make money unless you know how to count it? So that's the accounting class. And then we have a really exciting science class. I know science, doesn't that sound great? Science of light, color, and motion. So again, it's geared towards our creative student mindset. And also we include creative projects in all these classes. So anyway, that's what it is. If you need any more information, we're happy to help.
Okay, great. So that's the structure of the program in large terms and some of its objectives. As the students work through photography programs, they're getting feedback from different people and getting it in sometimes a very personal way. You know, some of our instructors give feedback via text and video. Some of them give it via audio critiques, which is a very personal, direct, and informative way to get the information that you need on your work to improve it. So I'd like to just add to this section and sort of build on what Meryl and Felicia have said, just talk about what makes the BFA different, because some of the students that are going to be watching this video are going to be students thinking about BFA. Maybe they're in an undergraduate certificate or an associate degree, or maybe they're a graduate thinking about coming back and like, okay, 4 semesters to a BFA, that sounds good, but what does it actually include? Well, in this section, I want to talk about some of the things that make it different. We have, we've got a very fast slide advancer here. There's Vanna White on coffee. Okay, so some of the things that are different, you know, slight differences, as Felicia was saying, like the focus on the certificate and the associate degree is building really, really strong foundation in technical fundamentals or design or art fundamentals, depending on your major. And when you enter the BFA level, you're kind of extending it in a smaller group fashion, and you're getting the opportunity in these upper level classes that you get in your last 4 semesters to really work one-on-one with your advanced faculty. So there are things that you may not have experienced at the lower level, like 2 Zoom meetings a semester to talk about your projects or to do a final presentation, or an office hour in the middle to really workshop what your project's going to be. So there's a lot of interaction. It's in a small group form. It's with your peers who are your advanced students who are seeking a BFA, and you're working through content that's challenging you to take on more advanced projects, some of which are more extended or more multi-part, in order to come out of it with a stronger portfolio. The course material is going to be presented in a similar fashion. You know, just to use photography as an example, the upper level is going to give you the ability to experience a lot of projects that really could build out your portfolio, and also personalize them a little bit. So you have choice. So you could say, you know, I really want to blow out my portfolio in commercial photography or food photography or editorial photography. And you could, working with your instructor and with your department head, you can cater some of your projects to those themes, and thereby at the end of the day have a portfolio that really kind of resembles what it is that you're aiming for. I mean, as we all know, in creative fields, your work kind of speaks for itself, and then you should be trying to build a body of work in order to get more of the kind of projects that you want to get. And whether you're a graphic designer, illustrator, or photographer, that's true for everybody. So in each of those majors, that's really what we're trying to do, is give those personalized opportunities. So projects are going to be sometimes more challenging, sometimes a little bit more open-ended. Sometimes we'll give you more time over a series of weeks to complete them, and that gives you a chance to do something that's you know, at a higher level than perhaps you've accomplished so far, with the benefit of peer feedback as well as your instructor. So you'll have the chance to post your work and incorporate peer feedback into your process as well. Finally, one thing that is a real component of the upper level, which is a characteristic we really want from our degree students, as Meryl was saying at the beginning of the talk, is the evidence of research. You know, whether you're a photographer, an illustrator, or a graphic designer, your work is the product of a thought process. All the stuff that's going on behind the camera or in front of the mouse or up your arm from the pen is what's happening in your mind. It's what's happening creatively. And that's not just personal inspiration. It's also researching the field, researching the medium, understanding what's happened in your art form before and what's happening right now, and trying to connect to that and trying to broaden your skills by exposing yourself to all the great stuff that's happening. So those are things that we're trying to do in this upper level program, really kind of focus in and provide that finishing school for you by providing you tons of resources that will help expand where you are, and that we'd like to see you apply and evidence in your projects. Finally, one thing I want to say is, you know, developing the BFA program has been an absolute joy, because it's given us a chance to work not only with our very experienced, very much valued, experienced faculty such as Taz and Felicia, folks that might be familiar to you. This is just the roster for the photography program, but in the upper level courses, regardless of your major, you're going to get the chance to work with new instructors, folks you haven't worked with before that we've been fortunate to add to the faculty. So in our upper level photography track, we've got Melanie, we've got Dr. Meryl Epstein herself, who's a photographer as well as a designer, which is kind of amazing. And Jill Mott, who's our cultural anthropology instructor, is really fabulous photographer herself. So, you know, in aggregate, you're thinking about learning from different people, different points of view, gaining their experiences, getting their perspective on your work. And, you know, the ability to see your work from different perspectives is really one of the great benefits of art school. So with that all said, we're gearing up for the April 24th start. We have some special promotions that our admissions team is going to talk to you about. And there's also a special promotion for our photography students, as we're looking to add photography students to enter the BFA track in April and August. So we'll be reaching out to you individually about that. But let's cover the basics of what's available. And I'm going to turn you over to Jessica.
Thank you. Yeah, so the admissions process for the bachelor's degree program is very similar to the associate's degree program. So it's a formal application process. I won't take you through all the ins and outs of it now, but every student goes through that formal process, whether they're returning or they're a new student. And your admissions advisor is there to help you through that, just make it really easy and smooth. We also have scholarships that students can apply to. Whether you're a grad and you're returning or you're a new student, admissions always encourages everybody to apply for a scholarship because it can take up to $2,000 off the cost of your tuition, and every penny counts. We also have grants available, as Gordon was mentioning, for our AOS grads. So if you are an alumni of Sessions, or you are soon to be an alumni and you're looking to graduate from your associate's degree, we do have a grant available for that. So definitely reach out to admissions and we can help you kind of get that set up and get you into classes. You can contact admissions through email. I always encourage students to call in though. It's the quickest way to get a hold of us, and then we can really thoroughly answer any questions that you have about the programs. But of course, you can also go to the website. You can chat it on the site. So there's multiple ways to get in touch with us. In addition to that, if you are an associate's degree grad, you should have received some emails already a little bit about the grants as well. And it's only available for this April start. So definitely make sure to reach out to us, learn a little bit more, get going on the application process, because even though April 24th sounds far away, I can guarantee you it comes quick, especially when you're kind of putting together all of your stuff. So that's pretty much my spiel. That's my admission spiel for the.
Great, thank you. That's a nice spiel. Sorry, mispronunciation.
Yeah.
So now we have time. We actually have lots of time for Q&A in this session, and I invite any students in this chat. Tamara, if you're listening here and you have a question, feel free to post it in the chat. If we don't hear questions, I think we have a few FAQs that we could perhaps add to this, just to make sure that some of those common questions do get answered. So let me know, Jessica, are you seeing any questions coming in?
I do not just yet.
Not here.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
This is good.
Yeah,
I see something in the chat.
There's a.
Oh, right there.
Will the grant still be available to AOS in 2025? Asked Tamara, who must be in she's graduating in 24, so she's earlier in her program. So the way I would answer that is there's a grant right now. We don't know what's going to be available in 24 and 25. There is a grant available now, and typically most terms we have some kind of incentive or offer, and it changes from term to term. So the only one that we have published is the one that's available for students who are entering right now, but I'm sure there'll be something that's available to you later on. I will say the other thing I'd add is if you're in one of those earlier programs, like the UC or the associate program, and you're really determined to go into the BFA, there might be an advantage to transferring to that soon, committing to it, and getting in that track if that's appealing to you.
Yes. There's interesting.
Yeah.
So here's another
that
question.
goes right.
Felicia asked.
I think you just answered that.
Yeah, I think I just asked
say.
that. Okay. Maybe we can talk about the feedback process. I mean, because I think you know, we always talk about program structure and the goals and objectives, but for me, it's some of the magic is kind of the feedback. So my question to you, Felicia, would be like, what do you think are some of the benefits of getting feedback on your work as a creative,
gosh.
broadly, as a photographer and as a
think
creative?
as a professional photographer, the thing I miss the most about the academic setting is getting the feedback from my peers and also from the faculty. To me, when I show my photos around to non-photographers, my grandma is a good one. She has two things to say to me. One, oh, that's pretty. Or two, why is it blurry? Because she doesn't like depth of field. So she doesn't like it when I've got a shallow background.
Right.
And I can never get any concrete feedback from her or really anyone else about whether my storyline was like understandable or whether that lighting style is working, or especially I don't get a lot of feedback about how I could push it to be better. So when I'm giving my students feedback, I always give an audio feedback, and I do that. I started doing that because I broke my arm and it was hard to type. But I realized that the students really liked being able to hear the inflection in my voice. And as a result, I could give like a harder feedback. I could say, you did a great job here. This photo has a lot of stuff working for it, and I can tell you really tried. Now here are, and then I can just throw out all sorts of ways that photo or that concept could be taken up a notch. And I try to get as in-depth as I can within like a reasonable amount of time. So sometimes I focus a lot on the assignment. If I've got a student who's pretty advanced and has clearly nailed the assignment, I'll just tell them that, and then I'll move into all the other things that could help them out. But I really think that's critical. And getting it from your peers is also helpful because you're all at the same or similar level. And you're also maybe not so much at sessions. I was going to say you're kind of at the same age group, but I think we have a really wide age range, so I won't say that actually. Right. But you're in it doing it right now, so you're more likely to do the research than I am about what's current. Like I already own cameras and lenses, and I'm not stalking the like consumer tech blogs to find out the latest and greatest technology because I already have stuff that works. Whereas your fellow students, there's a specific light. Can't remember what it's called. There's a specific light that a whole bunch of my students use. I've never seen it in person, but like one student will mention it and then 10 other students say, "Oh, I love that light. I love that light." Because they're all feeding off of each other, learning that stuff together. So I think that's the feedback is great.
Peer-to-peer is good. You mentioned something that is important, the ability to give feedback, because you might work in creative teams. You've got to kind of develop your ability to express your own critical language, develop your own critical language in order to improve.
And also I think learning how to receive feedback is helpful. When you first start out, I mean, even now, like I feel like my life and my personality, my heart is in every photo, even if it's a boring photo, like it still meant something to me at that time. And so it's hard when someone, especially someone who's writing my paycheck, says to me, "I need you to redo this," or like, "I'm not happy with the product." But I mean, you don't always hit it out of the park the first time. So learning how to accept that feedback in a way that's less personal on a very personal topic is really critical. It's a skill that I use all the time. Right.
And which touches on the concept that the program includes the ability to revise and improve your work. I mean, so everyone knows if you're at sessions, you have the ability to submit your assignment multiple times for a grade to improve it based on the feedback you're getting from your instructor. So your grade is never, it's not, your initial grade is not final, because, you may submit an assignment and get this feedback and go back and do it again. And you're taking advantage of the learning and you're making your work better, right? I mean, you've seen students do assignments, do them over or do a shot over and improve it.
I've even had students who've received 100 on assignments that have redone. I encourage everybody to do it because in a lot of my classes, since they're technical foundations, you can ace the assignment because you've completed the technical requirements, but maybe there's more that you could do on the conceptual side. And so I've had some of the students that I would consider to be like the superior students who are so serious about photography that they'll take 100% assignment and they'll resubmit it anyway because they know that feedback is valuable.
Right.
So
that's awesome. Meryl, can I ask you, like, how do you think, like, how do we promote how do we manage to provide this kind of constructive environment in the class? Because the culture among our, Felicia's an exemplar for our faculty. Like, how are we doing that, and why is it
Well,
important?
We provide encouragement for our faculty just as we do with students. And really, like Felicia said, it's really how the message is delivered. When she's doing this audio critique, they can hear her inflection in her voice, that it's friendly and supportive, and she's not just being mean for the sake of being mean.
Yeah.
In the written words, a little different, because sometimes people don't know if someone's being sarcastic. And so what we encourage faculty to be is not sarcastic. This is not time to be jokey, but to, we call it the sandwich. And we present this for faculty, but as well as for students when you're giving feedback to your peers, because you say, this is really terrific. I enjoyed this. This is really interesting. Have you thought about this? And sort of thinking beyond it, as Felicia was saying, I think sometimes we don't know what we don't know. I know that sounds sort of silly, but you really don't if you're in a box thinking on something. I've seen students like go down a different path, unintended path when they're working on a project, because maybe they missed a detail, or maybe they didn't read the instructions in a way that connected all the dots. And so then they submit it, and I go, well, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
Other language. But then have you thought about this? And maybe you submitted the wrong file, and you have a file that includes this. And if not, please resubmit. And I have students, like Felicia said, I have students that resubmit work, even if they do have 100% on a project, because our discussing it made them think about it differently. And the nature of being creative is you're out here, and then you get narrow and focus. And with photography, of course, we focus, right? But then when someone else interjects, you're like, I hadn't thought about that. And it's so fun to have that light bulb moment. And that's really what we encourage students and faculty to engage. And like Felicia said, it makes it more interesting too. As an instructor, I love seeing students come up with ideas, wackadoo ideas I've never seen before. And that's really fun. So it helps expand my point of view as well. Does that answer that question?
I think it does. I mean, everyone should know that we have a student gallery. Like we have several programs to kind of promote student achievement. Things like an academic honor roll for people to get high grades, or a student gallery for the work that the faculty nominates. So our faculty nominates every term the best work that they're seeing in their class, and it gets curated, and then there's a final presentation of work that appears in our gallery. It's about 30 to 40 different works of different genres. And I've always noticed that when those submissions come in, the students that appear in the gallery, a lot of them have version 2 or version 3 on their file name, which means that they went through it, they got feedback, they thought about it, they went back to the drawing board a little bit, or refined some details, and then boom, presto, there it is. It's good enough to go in the gallery, and it's recognized in our small way within our school. But the students learning, okay, if I really put in this extra piece of work, I could really make this sing, and then I could be something that can be part of my portfolio, can show my work, can show my skills. And then, Felicia, as you mentioned, whatever client you work with, presumably they're paying you for the ability to give you feedback and sort of tweak the result until it's what they want, right?
Yeah.
So that's built into the life of creatives these days. So in a way, we're trying to address that within the school.
I'd say that there's another aspect to the session's feedback, or maybe just calling it interactions instead of feedback, is, this is an online school, and photography is inherently difficult to teach online or to learn online. It's easy to teach online. It's harder to learn online because you can't get your hands into things as much. And so I think that the discussions and the midterm and the final critiques specifically in the AOS, and then in the BFA program, there'll be even more opportunity. Like, the feedback from me is cool, whatever. But the feedback that the students can get from their classmates, I think, mimics a real classroom as much as possible. And I still keep in contact with my bachelor's cohort and my master's cohort. You know, less and less as the years go on, but every once in a while there'll be a text thread where somebody's like, hey, I'm trying to work on this shoot, I'm having some trouble, does anyone have any idea? And we can all fire back because we're still engaged with each other. And so I encourage that in my classes, like especially that welcome discussion thread, keep that active all semester, share your Instagrams with each other, and like ask questions and get to know each other. If you're local to the same state, actually get together. I know a couple of students who did that a few years ago. But yes, I think the feedback from the faculty is important, but I also think that classmate feedback is really critical.
Yeah,
Speaking of
absolutely.
that too, there is a Facebook and alumni and students page that a lot of students enter into. And I see a lot of that same type of discussion on there that you mentioned, Flea, where people will kind of go back and forth like, hey, I'm working on this one assignment and I got stuck on something. What do you guys all think? And people will chime in, alumni will chime in, or, hey, you know, there's this position that opened up where I work and we are looking for a couple of designers or photographers or something like that, you know, send me a quick DM and we'll, you know, work out the details. So it's good to get into that Facebook group as well, because it can just kind of enhance that networking a little bit more.
Yeah.
Great. That's one of the features that's available throughout the program and afterwards to session students. Is there any other FAQ you guys thought about that you think is a common sort of, perhaps from you, Jessica, like it's a common thing that students ask that we could answer?
Yeah, I had one that I think would be good for you, Gordon or Merle. And that is what I know a lot of students, you know, when they speak to me, they are comparing all of their options. They're looking at a lot of different schools all at the same time. And usually these students are looking at a lot of online programs all at the same time because they have a reason that they came to a school for an online program, convenience or whatever else they have going on in their lives. But one that I think kind of stands out to me is what is different, or like how does sessions stack up, especially in the bachelor's degree program, to say like, you know, enter local university online program here, right? So what sort of differentiates us and what are our strengths against, say, like your local university online program?
Meryl, would you
Can
like
I go?
Yes, you can, of course.
Well, I think that the focus of sessions may be different than a large university, for example, that has a photo department. They have programs, and a lot of again, COVID inspired a lot of universities to create online programs. The difference is Sessions was born online. You know, we started with dial-up. You know, that sound of the modem. So, you know, and some of us have the gray hair to prove how long ago that was. But the difference is that everything we do is produced with online education in our mind. And when we create it, and I even mentioned that earlier, even our gen eds, they're not off the shelf. You can't get our cultural anthropology course somewhere else. We created it for our students with our students in mind. And so some colleges will have, for example, they'll have a photo program, but then all their gen eds are by different colleges and different things, but they're not necessarily customized for their students. In our case, everything we do is focused on what skills does a student need to be successful in the field. We're not looking to create lecturers and someone that's getting a PhD or something like that. That isn't our focus. Our focus is how can we help you be a successful and engaged working professional in the field. And that is how we translate that information along the way. Some universities, if you're in an art program, you have to take all your gen eds in the beginning. Oh, yeah. Ooh, I want to get into the meat of it. I want to be making images. I want to be making art. And so what we do is really blend that experience. And sometimes, you know, you're so in it. You know, photography, you can say, well, it could take me a half hour, it could take me 10 hours or 15 hours. It depends how you focus and manage your time and focus on the project. But the gen eds and other classes help supplement it. So everything we do, from the development of the course to how we arrange the courses into a semester, we keep a student experience in mind what it's like to be an online student. And I think that differentiates us, aside from the fact our curriculum's fabulous, but you know, who am I to say?
Well, you're only the dean, so if you can't say it, nobody can. I mean, I think to add to that, I mean, I agree with all of that. I mean, I think you know, I think one thing, because we're born online, I mean, and we've beaten this to death in some ways, that we're always providing a combination of flexibility and structure. Like, so, you know, so you're in one of Felicia's classes, you have a lot of work to do. You'll have 6 assignments, you'll have 6 discussions, they'll put you through creative paces, you'll have specific things to do. And you'll be prepared for each of these projects by preceding lectures and presentations of content and links to external resources that will help you understand what it is you're going to do. And then you have creative task, which you complete, and then you submit it, and then you get feedback, and you get a chance to iterate on that. And then as you work through the course, you get more and more connected learning that's practically applied. I mean, I think that's one of the benefits of sessions, is like, we don't really believe anything until you've actually applied it. You know, it's applied learning. I mean, everyone who's creative knows that talking about art is fine, but you've got to do it. And so we try to make our curriculum project based, and because it's a series of projects, and because it's connecting with these expert instructors and getting feedback, you can do it on your own schedule. So you'll have structure, so you'll have your weekly assignments, but within that you can, you know, arrange your life to complete your projects when you have time. And as long as you get it in by Friday or Wednesday or whenever the deadline is for participation or for submission of assignments, then you know, you can really make this work alongside your regular work or your other commitments. You know, we have a survey every year based on our orientation course that says that 50% of our degree level students are full-time employed while they're taking the program. And that's only possible because, you know, it's flexible enough that you could fit in your program in those spaces in your busy adult life where you may have a chance, you know, you put the kids to bed, you've got a weekend, you've got an evening, you've got a day off. And, you know, so you can adjust your education around your life, not the other way around, but still do it at a high quality level. Mm-hmm. So that's, if you're, you know, you can be born online and then you can be preparing yourself for the real world at the same time. Meryl, do you want, is there any, Felicia, with anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I'd add to that. I mean, so as I'm on the receiving end of all your assignments, but as a working parent, I really like the flexibility, and I also like the predictability. Like in the AOS program, for example, you'll have 1 week where you have the discussion, and then the next week where you'll have the assignment, and you know that they're going to be due on Wednesdays or Fridays, and so you can fit it in there really nicely between everything else because it is so predictable and flexible. We had a student once in Germany, Puerto Rico, I'm trying to think, but there's all different time zones, different countries happening. And because they're in the AOS is not as much structure, you can really mesh it around. In the BFA with the couple of Zooms and things like that, there will be some times, but anytime I've had anything like that come up, I always try to give as many options as I can, some early morning, some late night, stuff like that. But yeah, I know my students have noticed I do a lot of my grading at like 1 a.m. after the baby's asleep. And I know that students are submitting at those times as well, because we're often talking to each other at the same time. So that flexibility is excellent.
Awesome. And I see that someone put in also that they wanted to point out that as a student at Sessions, what they appreciated about it is that as a working adult, they're paying only for the classes that are towards their major. And I know Merle kind of pointed this out too, that we have a few gen eds that get mixed in with the rest of the curriculum, but they're not algebra or biology and chemistry and these things that usually at a public university, in my experience, you know, a public university online, you have to take those gen eds that have absolutely nothing to do with your major. But at Sessions, the science classes, what did you say, like photo and lighting or study of light and color, was it? And the
light,
math class,
color, and motion. Light,
color, and motion, yeah. And the math class is accounting for creatives. So they're relevant to what you're actually studying. So you're not, you know, in a value perspective, right? You're not paying money for credits that you just take it to get done, right? Which I think a lot of us have done going to public universities. So
Yeah, and as you point out, it can be really frustrating.
yes. Yeah.
No, I've had in my experience as an administrator, I've had students not at Sessions, but at a previous college, students who transferred from other colleges, and they kept making them take the same class over and over again. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
That's so frustrating. We're all about engaging that. We even have life proficiency. If someone has experiences, they can apply for that program as well. So we always keep student success in mind, and not only their success in the program, but their life challenges and the like when we create the content. So the content's engaging. We're not like talking at you, wah, wah, wah. It's really fun and engaging. And as Gordon pointed out, there's projects to keep you on track.
Yeah.
So,
I think also having classes that are like within your wheelhouse is so helpful. Like the only CI I've ever had on my transcript is for calculus. I don't use calculus. Who even cares? But it's what I had to take for that, you know, to get that final math class or something like that. And so I think, you know, with our honors lists and everything like that, you do want to keep your GPA up if you can. And having a class you're never going to use again does not help you there.
I will say, you know, like even today, we were discovering that the relevance of some of our gen eds. Just to give you an example, you know, we've been researching some new program directions for Sessions. And if you look at creative ads right now, there are a lot of companies that are asking for cultural sensitivity. So as you know, there's this DEI movement that's about diversity and inclusion, and companies, certain companies, not all companies, but some of them are asking for sort of an awareness of these factors in the profile of their candidate. So the fact that we have a cultural anthropology course, which is really all about, you know, understanding the differences in cultures and kind of respecting them in an academic fashion, but it's also a creative thing too, because if you're doing any kind of creativity, you're always doing it for an audience, and it might be a very specific audience that you're dealing with. So these are relevant. I mean, as Meryl was saying, we're committed to not having irrelevant courses, but making them relevant, the opposite. So, and relevant to the job market, relevant to your development as a creative. So, yeah. So this has been a good chat, and like as we think about this chat, I'm thinking about all the students who are going to catch this Zoom. If they're not catching it live, they might catch it in recording. So thank you all for participating and giving all your enthusiasm to this chat. Is there anything else anybody would like to add before we close up?
If you want to learn more, check out sessions.edu. We're here to help. We're really student-centric, and we look forward to working with you, because that's what gets us up in the morning. It's what we do.
That's right. Okay, great. Well, listen, thanks for attending, Tamara, and thanks to everyone else who's been listening to this chat and who's going to listen to it in the future asynchronously. We want to wish you all a good night, and thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Hello,
you.
Tamara.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.